All right, so what I just did is I kind of came back and stepped back from my drawing and looked at the whole thing. There are some parts of it that I was not liking. That seemed a little too parallel over there to me. So I kind of came back and adjusted that a little bit. I looked at all the lines that are in here. I erased all my old bad ones for the most part. And kind of came back around and adjusted some things. Wanted to make sure that all of these lines, feel like they're going to the right place. Each one of these kind of trapezoids has to feel a little bit wider here than it is over there, right? Because that's farther away. Same thing here, wider, smaller, or taller, shorter. Okay? And it needs to do that in all three directions. And it has to believably look like it's doing that in all three directions. Now, if something starts to happen here as we get into this, coming from here to here, ideally this would look absolutely and exactly like that, in which case all your problems would be solved. The thing is, as you get in here, you start looking at it, and there starts to be like some slight differences here. Like, I'll look at this, it's a little bit wider here than it is to there, than it is on mine. Mine's starting to feel perhaps a little bit more, a little bit more parallel here. The question is, can I rob Peter to pay Paul, move my way around, and get this? Or is that believably converging enough? I think that it is converging enough. Here's the thing, is that it starts to be more about this box than it does about this box. This box has to be believable, right? And I have to have it start to obey the logic of this box. That box was helpful to get me to this point. But at this point now, I need to do what I did on that box with this box and the logic of this box. The logic of this box is that I've got a vanishing point down there, I got a vanishing point somewhere up in the sky, and I got another vanishing point over here on the right hand side, okay? And it has to look believable. It has to be believable. So now what I'm going to do is what I did with the other one, which is crisscross, find the diagonals, so that I can find the center points of all three of these front planes. 1, 2, 3. You know what? I actually just kind of got ahead of myself. Let me just finish this idea. I got ahead of myself here. Oh man. Sorry for the bonk, people. In that I need to now come back to this and look at the proportions of this rectangle and look at this back rectangle and be like, hey, can I buy that for the same rectangle? I'll tell you this, it looks a little bit long to me. It looks a little long. Huh. All right, now I'm going to look at this, which is my bottom view, which paradoxically in mine I have to look at the top rectangle because I'm looking up at it, and that's the least foreshortened of this one versus this bottom rectangle. I want to look at that and say, hey, can I buy that for this rectangle in perspective? You know what? That looks kind of okay to me. It looks kind of okay. Now I want to look at this one back here. And I want to look at the back rectangle here. Can I buy this rectangle for that rectangle in perspective? It looks okay. I certainly don't want to go any shorter with it. And I think that it is workable. Now, these are questions about proportion. This is the big difference from a last project to this project, is that I have to ask this question. Is it the right proportion? I have to get it as close as I can. The thing is, I don't want to go any wider with this one because I think it would get off. And I think that that's okay. When I look at this one, that looks all right to me. It might be a little bit long. And in this case, I felt like this feels a little bit long to me. So maybe before I start doing all these diagonals, maybe I should make those adjustments. If I'm going to make the adjustment, what that means is if it's too long, I either need to make it taller or I need to cut some off, right? Now if I make it taller, that's also going to make this one taller. And remember, I just said I didn't want to do that, right? So that would mean that I want to shave off some of this. Now in shaving off some of this, it might start to change my proportion a little bit there. But now I'm starting to think more about this and less about that. I want this to make sense with the box that I've got here. I'm going to look at that and that, and I'm going to try to get the proportions right. This is going to make me have to redraw those diagonals. But it's better to do that now than it is to do it later. The other thing that I need to say about proportion is that if your proportions are a little bit off, it's not a deal breaker with this project. If my light is a little bit long, it's not going to kill things. All right, so I'm going to look at that angle or that proportion. You know what? I think maybe I took off a little bit too much. So I'm going to come out here a little bit. And do another chop. My point is that once you've got a system here that's working believably, three-point perspective system, that changing your proportions is outpatient surgery. It's not that big of a deal, okay? Don't be afraid of it. On the handout demo, I do something really similar with that tractor that I drew. Just make your decision. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got to change that a little bit. The thing is, I like that line. I'm not sure I like this line. That feels really parallel what I just did. This one feels really parallel. Now the more I look at it, the more that one looks kind of parallel. But I'm going to change this. I'm looking at those lines while I'm drawing this line. It has to feel like it's going to the same vanishing point. So I'm thinking less and less about my little box. I'm thinking more and more about the logic of this box. Each line I draw, I have to make that decision. All right? I'm going to erase the old stuff. Get rid of it. Now you'll start to see a lot of ghost lines. They're happening on my drawing. They'll happen on yours as well. Some of those you won't like the looks of. Like these diagonals. I have to totally redraw those. I also want to look at my box. It's changing its position on the page. I have to make sure that I'm still feeling okay with that. The thing about these old construction lines is that that's your thought process. That doesn't bother me at all to see them on your drawing, because that shows me what you've done to get it where it is. And sometimes you got to really wrestle with it, you know? You're wrestling with the angel there. It's fighting the good fight is what it is, right? Now, this is not easy, but this is the thing that I have to teach you this semester. It's like looking at it, stepping back from it. Does it look like three-point perspective? Am I understanding everything that I've been taught so far? Am I putting all the pieces together? So I'm looking at that. I like the proportions of it better. I think this is going to work for my lights. Now I'm going to do this crisscross business. One, two, three. Oops. Okay, so my next big step is going to be, I got to find those midplanes. In particular, for mine, I got to find this midplane that exists inside, right? I got to find that midplane, and it's got to look good with the rest of my box. So that's going to be the next thing that we're going to do.